So Donald Trump is trying to do his job. He's doing a great job. He's doing lots of things, and he's doing it as fast as he can because he knows that if the 2026 elections, midterm elections, don't go his way, that he will only have inside of 18 months to 2 years to do his job, the one he wants to do, to get America back to what it used to be, which is to say, where you remember the rule of law, where people weren't, going after others on the streets. Defunding cops wasn't a thing, where you actually had free speech. You could stand on a soapbox and speak your mind until the woke crowd came along and said, you're unacceptable. You must go from the universities and the public squares and the special clubs and all of that stuff. So he wants to return it there. And so in so doing, he's decided that because Big Balls, that would be one of the Doge guys, got the snot beaten out of him by a bunch of thugs on the street corner of the District of Columbia. That's it. We're done. Reporters, people who work for government do not feel safe. And government is the business of the District of Columbia. It's why the founders decided to carve out this special area that was a federal district, neither state nor it's a city, but it's, they're accorded certain representation, but that person can't vote because they should not have any representation in Congress that will give them oversized power. The founders wanted to make sure that there was no favor, nothing given to the District of Columbia, which I think we can all agree has well demonstrated its efforts to try to rig the system a little bit. I think of the justice system, and I think of all the people who decided that they were going to, indict Donald Trump and or indict anybody related to him because not because based on the law, but because based on their problems, their mental issues with Donald Trump. And so it is now with the folks in the District of Columbia, where we find that, some folks are a little upset. Just a little bit upset. He can't take over. He can't do that. Donald Trump's not available. He's unable to do that. We can't have him taking over the police department, which he announced yesterday. Can't have him taking over the police department. We can't have him taking over anything having to do with the woke DC. And Donald Trump went on the news just yesterday, and he said, look, the Federation's taken over, man.
Action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening, and they've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly.
Okay. So he's deploying the National Guard. He's federalizing the National Guard, and he's on the streets of D.C. Not to be confused with the Capitol Hill area, wherein he wanted the National Guard to be deployed prior to January 6, 2021, so that there wouldn't be any of the Antifa activity that actually happened, as a matter of fact. And then there were some people on the right who said, hey, let's get in there. So there were bad actors from all sorts of areas, especially from federal law enforcement and the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. Isn't that interesting? You remember the video? I don't have it for you here, but later I'll show it to you. It's the video of the Metropolitan Police officers yelling at people, get up the scaffolding, get up there, hurry. And they were pushing people up the scaffolding outside the Capitol. Yeah, Metropolitan Police. Well, now Trump actually is running the Metropolitan Police Department, and that is probably not any coincidence. But I would also say that he's sick and tired of a hot and cold running homeless people all over the street corners. We're going to talk a lot more about the president's issues on getting rid of the homeless industrial complex. We're going to do that on Thursday. And so, but we'll take that apart, that EO, that executive order apart. But yeah, now he's going after homeless, and he's already broken up 70 homeless camps since he's been in the Oval Office, but nobody knew because nobody actually cares because nobody actually reports anything in the DC area. Okay, so that's what's going on there. Plus, they're going to try to have a police presence so that the gangs, carjackers, and all those folks, the people who just walk up and shoot people, for just grins and giggles because it's a 14-year-old kid and they know the leaders of the gangs know 14-year-olds are going to be in prison. So they have them go and do the extra dirty things to scar their souls and to do their bidding. So, and they know that they won't pay for it, but now they're going to start prosecuting people who are 14 years old as adults, and at least start by locking them up. That might be helpful. Okay, so that's what they're doing. And people are, yesterday on the streets, oh, we can't do, hey, ho, ho. We can't have this problem to go. Yay, wah. Here are the stats and how they stack up. Here's how DC stacks up to other major cities. This was put out by the White House. So the White House is, of course, wanting the Washington, D.C. to be on the top. And, you have Bogota, Colombia, and, thinking Mexico City. Mexico City is actually pretty good compared to the rest of Mexico. Oh, my God. Because you're going to see the numbers. Delhi, you'd think there'd be a lot of people in Delhi, India, shaking down people and beating people, but you'd be wrong. It's not as bad there as it is in Washington, D.C. And these are the murder rates. And the murder rates were put out and fact-checked by MSNBC. And they said, oh, that's not the murder rate. That's not 27.54%. It's only, I think they said it was 17%. And it was like, no, not really, because you guys were not counting the youth crime rate. And the last time I checked, a bullet is still a bullet if it hits you, and it doesn't matter if it was fired by a gun, coming from a gun, fired by a guy who's 30 or 14. You're still dead. So here it is. Here are the other crime stats, murder rates. Okay. 39 most dangerous cities of the world, deadliest and most violent. Here we go. TJ, Tijuana, Mexico, 138 homicides per 100,000 people. Now you think to yourself, okay, 27 point whatever that was vis-a-vis 100,000 people. I mean, hey, TJ's got, we got nothing on TJ, Washington, D.C. But you'd be, I'm sure, quite upset to learn that TJ is full of the cartels now. And that is the deadliest city. They still have beheadings in Tijuana. That is, by the way, Tijuana, I've spent years of my career and family and everything in San Diego. And all I had to do is go over a little itty bitty bridge to get to TJ. And ain't nobody want to go there anymore unless you work across the border maybe and you come over every day. A lot of people do that. They get U.S. wages, go back to, home in Tijuana. A lot of people, One American News. A lot of people did that. So Acapulco is turning into a repository for cartels. Caracas, Venezuela. Well, we rest our case. Ciudad Victoria, Mexico. I did not know that. Ciudad Juarez is usually the one that we talk about. Okay, so you go down. San Juan, Puerto Rico. And the numbers for D.C., this is ostensibly the reason that the president wants to do this, the numbers for D.C. are especially bad. And so 27.54, I think it was. Okay, all right, okay. So here we go. We want to do this. I'll show you a story. Well, it's the death rate isn't that bad. Murder rate isn't that. It's crime stats aren't that bad. In fact, it's a 30-year low. You mean Mr. Trump, you bad person. Okay. Now, here's a story that is just not making the rounds as it should be. DC police commander suspended, accused of changing crime statistics. The Metropolitan Police Department. This is the Metropolitan Police Department, the very same one that the president has authority over now through his attorney general and through the DEA, I think, is they're putting that guy in charge of it. Okay. So Muriel Bowser's got some splaining to do about why one of her top commanders has been changing the crime stats. Now, this story broke a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, wow, you'd think that big, huge. No, you'd be wrong. You actually, you'd be wrong. In fact, during this aftermath of the Trump announcement that DC is a cesspool for crime, you'd be shocked that this has not even been brought up at all by the media. Now, NBC News broke the story July 18th. July 18th. Now, check this out. Metropolitan Police confirmed Michael Pulliam placed on leave in mid-May. That happened just a week after Pulliam filed an equal opportunity complaint against an assistant chief, and the police union accused the department of deliberately falsifying crime data. It sounds like this guy is actually a whistleblower that they don't want to call a whistleblower, but either way, whatever status he's in, he's now in big trouble because he was falsifying crime data. Pulliam, a former commander of the 3rd District that patrols Adams Morgan's in Columbia Heights, a couple of the worst areas, was placed on leave with pay, told he was under investigation for questionable changes to crime data. 5 law enforcement sources familiar with the investigation told it News 4. Okay, so we break down here, going to go down here and amid all their fine ads. When our members respond to a scene of a felony offense where there is a victim reporting that a felony occurred, inevitably there will be a lieutenant or a captain that will show up on that scene and direct those members to take a report for a lesser offense. That's what he's alleging. That is what his union is also alleging. Now, I knew about this because I listen to DC radio all the time because I like to know what's going on in my nation's capital. So I'm a P1 in DC. Fraternal Order of Police Chairman Greg Pemberton said, so instead of taking a report for a shooting or a stabbing or carjacking, they will order that officer to take a report for a theft or an injured person to the hospital or felony assault. This is the same thing, but much more skullduggery as the California Democrats did. Remember when California Democrats floated a proposition whereby they would dumb down all of most felonies to misdemeanors, including there was rape with a foreign object. Yeah, not a felony in California. They had changed that. People had to uprising, the whole thing. A couple of the DAs got fired. The George Soros DAs got fired. Okay. So we're back in Washington, D.C. now. The police department's command staff focused on 2 categories in order to get the numbers to fall. Pemberton said, armed with a dangerous weapon and injured person to the hospital. When management officials are directing officers to take reports for felony assault, or if they're going back into police databases and changing offenses to felony assault is not a category of crime that's listed on the department's daily crime stats. It's also not something that a requirement of the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program. So by changing the criminal offenses from, for example, ADW, assault with a deadly weapon, BAT, or ADW gun to felony assault, that would both avoid the MPD and the FBI from reporting that as part of one or a felony offense. Okay, so they were dumbing down the crime. And then they said 3 sources familiar with the incident and the timing of everything ordered Commander Pulliam to pack up his wife's belonging. Oh, they took it out on his wife. She worked for the youth division, and she was assigned to, cleaning toilets or something. Not really, but I mean, it felt like that. Okay.